All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson Mackay.
Your thoughts create your reality. If you're stuck in a cycle of negativity, it's not because you're broken, it's because your mind has been trained that way. The good news, you can rewire it. With the right tools, you can break patterns, shift your mindset, and start living the life you actually want. And that's a quote from today's guest, Ermina Isanovic. Today's guest is a powerhouse in the world of psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, hypnotherapy, and coaching. Ermina isn't just a skilled and compassionate practitioner. She's someone who has lived through life's toughest challenges. As a child war refugee, she witnessed firsthand how resilience and mindset can make or break a person. This experience ignited her passion for psychology and helping others unlock their full potential. Today, Ermina works with anyone from CEOs and surgeons to stay-at-home parents, guiding them to overcome self-doubt, manage stress, and break through limitations. Using a unique blend of cognitive behavioral strategies and hypnotic techniques, she empowers clients to transform anxiety, boost confidence, and rediscover their true, authentic selves. With a track record of leading mental health programs for NGOs across Europe and helping countless individuals align with their true self and identity, Ermina's mission is clear: to help you thrive and not just survive. Don't miss this conversation with a true expert in transformation and self-discovery. And now, let's get to the interview. If you had to give a quick introduction, you're a star, you're changing lives, you're helping so many people. How would you explain who the great is? How you're being a superstar and helping so many people?
Well, thank you. That's a very flattering intro. I don't know if I'm a superstar at all. I do hope that my work does help people, and actually, I have seen people change right in front of me, grow and become a much better version of themselves, healing from trauma to achieving great goals that they set for themselves. Bit of background about me. I have a degree in psychology and marketing, and I was always interested in psychology as a child. I was a refugee, so my curiosity about how people exposed to trauma deal differently with it. Some end up really crumbling and find it difficult to do anything or achieve anything, while others sort of they don't thrive because of it, but they end up sort of doing much better. They sort of like the resilience is there. Obviously, I was so young. I was 10 years old. I didn't know the difference in the different psychological profiling and so forth. But that's where my curiosity came from when it came to psychology. And so I did a bachelor's degree in psychology. Loved that part, but it was all about sort of talking therapy, which is, you sit there sort of like Freud. If you think about Freud, and talking on the couch, which is fantastic. But I felt it didn't give me the tools to help individuals change things. It was good to get them to talk about why they're there, what's brought them there, and understand and analyze and try to figure out what happened and why they are where they are at the moment. But then that was it. I felt like that's where it stopped. So I went back to studying, and I did cognitive behavioral therapy and hypnotherapy. And I personally benefited from that type of therapy, from studying it. I had extreme social anxiety, and through those tools that I learned, completely changed my life. So now I work with anybody from like really high performing individuals, a lot of them in the finance world, surgeons, but I also volunteer and I work with NGOs where I help the volunteers who set up and run refugee camps, because that's something that I went through, and seeing those people who helped us at that time, I think they really deserve the support, because it can be secondhand trauma, but you have these people healthy and being able to manage this, then more people are going to benefit, right? Those refugees that they're looking after will benefit from it. So that's me now.
I love it, because I've used cognitive behavior therapy myself and a bit of NLP, and I've seen such a benefit from it. But I also found during talk therapy, sometimes you keep the problem alive. Like you're saying, it's not a solution. It's
Yes.
discuss it, but it's not always how to fix it. And a lot of times, men particularly need, very concrete action steps. I mean, you talked there about your time as a refugee. How do you think that gave you that resilience to kind of resolve it? What would you say to somebody who's a loss of identity or a loss of focus, going through something similar? How would you, like, what piece of advice would you wish you had then? And how do you think it's made you a better, like, carer for people, because you can see and understand from a deeper level than the standard healing modalities we offer?
Right. So just to go back to the statement about, talking therapy is great, but it's not solution focused, which is true. However, trauma is released through talking. So it helps the body and the mind release the trauma, just like certain activities, like certain sport can help you with that as well, like yoga. But that doesn't mean you know how to change your life. What are the next steps? How to stop a vicious cycle or behavior that's really unhelpful. I think in all therapy, talking therapy is really important. But if that's all you can offer, it can be limited. Depending on the therapist, obviously, or the individual, maybe they just want to be heard, or somebody to be a witness to their story, to be seen. This is sometimes the first time somebody actually feels seen, because they've never had somebody sit there and allocate an hour to them and listen to them and really listen to them and see them. So that's one part. The other part about my background and how much that's influenced my work and how I work, I think the curiosity started there. And it's interesting because, like, when we study psychology, a lot of the teachers say individuals start studying psychology because they want to help themselves first. The curiosity comes from there. So my experiences made me really curious about different personality traits and profiles. And because I was such a young person, I was only 10 years old when I was exposed to war and then being a refugee. I was still developing and not understanding the concept, and I was just sort of understanding that is good and there's bad, sort of like black and white thinking, which is really approached and looked at in cognitive behavioral therapy. How we think makes a difference. But I think my experiences maybe gave me the initial curiosity, but I don't know. I think there's the different modalities help with different objectives. And I believe my view is that our thoughts really drive our life. Our narratives can really create a difference in how we feel and how we live our lives. And then what I use a lot with my clients is mental imagery and visualization, because it has the same effect visualizing something as doing it physically. So the same parts of the body, the brain get lit up as if you were doing a physical thing. I don't know if I'm answering your question, to be honest.
No, I mean, I really like that, because I found I needed to incorporate some sort of physicality into the treatment, by just discussing it. I was dealing with it to an extent. I wasn't kind of moving on from it or expelling the energy, but I think that was maybe my approach to it. That, like you were saying, it was the first time I felt like I'd actually been listened to by somebody. Like they were actually there to listen to me, rather than feeling like the black sheep of the family and never really fitting in or knowing my place. And I think that sometimes is a lot for a lot of guys. It's like you're saying, it's just getting somebody to go, no, this is about you. We're not talking about the kids. We're not talking about the partner. We're actually going to listen to your, do you find there's a similarity in the things that guys come to you, that if you remove the emotion, if you remove the personalization, that there's some similar traits they come to see you about? Is it like lack of purpose, not feeling like they're a good father, that sort of thing? Is there general areas you see people about?
It's a really good question, because mostly it's women who come to therapy. I happen to be lucky, and I have a really good balance between female and male individuals that I see. And with men, I also deal with a very specific group of men, and these are they're high achievers, so highly strung. And a lot of them come to me for different things. A lot of them come to me for like two main reasons. One of them is like burnout. They have just they've just, put everything into their work, and they just burned out. They have nothing left. So they start questioning, like, well, what's the point? What am I doing? The other part is that personal relationships break down, because they are not used to communicating, talking. They're sort of just doing. They have goals that were set for them by society or by their family. And
Yep.
it's sort of like, this is my goal and this is what I'm going to achieve. And that's it. So there's no time to stop, think, and reflect. And eventually things come to a stop. It's either like your body says, I can't do this anymore. So there's like fatigue or illnesses, or it's the world around you falls apart. Your relationships, they just crumble. And you can jump from one relationship to another. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about, friendships, even family. But eventually you come to a point where you're like, I can't continue like this. So men tend to be forced into therapy. They realize, well, this can't continue. Whereas I feel like with females, I had a really amazing client come to me, and she said to me, I've decided to do therapy because everything's good in my life. And I'm like, right, this is very refreshing. She said, yeah, because now I can do the deep work. Before, when things are not good in your life, that's when most people think of going and doing therapy, because you're putting out fires, right? My job is really bad, or my relationship is really bad, or my confidence is really bad. But when things are good, that's when you can go and work on deeper levels, sort of to elevate yourself, to become, it's like the best version of yourself, or better version. Because when we're putting out fires, we don't have time to really go, why did I do that? Or this pattern of behavior that right now I think I want to change.
Because it makes a lot of sense, because when you think about it, it's like the only time I actually asked for help or went to the doctor was when I was at the wit's end, or I was broken, or I was just thinking like how you could be speaking about me there, of like that. I know girls who've gone because they want to make sure their next relationship is better, or they want to continue feeling as good as they are, where a guy, it's literally, I broke my leg, I can walk it off. Oh, my leg's hanging off, I'm sure it'll be fine, I don't need to go to the doctor. We'll do anything to avoid it, and we usually go at our worst point. Have you seen a kind of move now? Are guys kind of slowly moving towards like talk therapy, coming to see somebody? Because we all before used to go, I'm feeling depressed, the doctor would give you tablets and that'll be it. Is there a push now towards like other healing modalities? Is things like talk therapy, exercise packs, group self-help relationships and things like that. Are you seeing more of the removal of the stigma from that men hold about therapy in this
It's
generation?
really,
Because I really hope so.
I know you would think so as well, right? Because we just went through huge life change. We all went through the pandemic, right?
Mm.
We all had, suffered mentally through that period, and then society and the government made therapy sort of like a norm, right? Everybody needs to go and have support. It's a normal thing to do. It's become much more acceptable to have a therapist.
Well, so, because I mean, you do amazing work, and I mean, you just the stuff you put on social media, on your website is so benefiting to people listening. But how do we know the difference between you're under a bit of stress compared to actual pressure to trauma? What's the identifiers? Do you see the similarities in what guys come to you with? Do you see a kind of output that guys can see as a red flag, or is it quite personalized to the person?
So there is difference between stress and trauma or anxiety. Stress is something that's really targeted and short. For example, I'm really stressed because I have a meeting and I need to prepare for it. And once the meeting is over, the stress levels go down. But anxiety is like this, even just general sort of, it can be specific anxiety, so it can be like social anxiety. It never goes away. When you're in a social setting, it could be anything from one person to like 100, it doesn't matter. It never goes away. It's always there. And trauma usually comes out somewhere, right? It can come out in, physical health. It can come out with, personality and psychological health, which impacts our ability to achieve our goals, to maintain relationships, have healthy relationships, and so forth. So, so those are sort of the main differences.
And do you see a kind of a move away now from the kind of okay, you need something. Okay, here's some tablets. Are we moving now into that kind of understanding of actual talking this out and kind of being a bit more open? Are we kind of understanding that where we would call a kid stupid in previous generations, that was dyslexia. We're kind of understanding more of these kind of labels and what's causing this. Like, how does our childhood affect our past affect our future? Are we kind of understanding now the link between the two, and how does our childhood affect our present and our ability for the future?
Great questions. I'll start with the first part, which is about, have you learned? Have you moved as society? And we definitely have. Schools these days do a lot of activities and sessions with children to teach them about their emotions, to teach them tools and how to manage really strong emotions, which we didn't ever have before, right? So there is
Definitely.
so there's a change, there's movement. It's sort of like part of the curriculum now is to teach sort of like mindfulness, and most kids are do sessions of meditation and yoga. It's very like a very common conversation to have with little kids. So that really has shifted and has moved. Before, anybody doing yoga or meditation was felt like sort of voodoo or something like that. It was not taken serious. There was not science behind it as much as it is now to show the benefits for practicing yoga, practicing mindfulness, practicing meditation. So that's definitely moved. The correlation between our past and our current state is huge. Our past really is responsible for who we are right now. So having awareness of our childhood, of our relationships, really can shine the light on why we are the way we are, what worked and what didn't work. So it's the whole, nature versus nurture. Are we born like this, or does the environment and our way of being brought up result in who we are? And studies show more and more that it's nurture. You can be, you're born a certain way, but your environment, your upbringing will influence and change that. Epigenetics are it's like exploded onto the mainstream media, which shows a lot how our environment, people we spend time with, really impact who we are.
Because I was just thinking just now about like how one of my friends had said to me that he had been called stupid until he'd been told he had dyslexia, but he'd always believed that he was better, so it never kind of phased him. Whereas when I was younger, I had really bad depression, which I know is depression now, but couldn't understand how other people could be so outgoing and social, and I'd be just sitting feeling like I didn't fit in anywhere, and I kind of knew something was wrong. But there's probably a lot of guys in that between the two extremes that are now sitting there going, I think I'm fine. I don't know. What do you think? Is there a way that you work with a client to start looking at them and saying, you're doing this, so it's that? Or do these kind of traits always leave a marker that something's not right?
I mean, if a client comes to me, they usually come, as I said, like with a specific goal or problem. And then through talking, we analyze the history, relationships, and we usually find, the moment when things changed. So it's very interesting. You talked about depression and so forth, but as a child, as children, Mate Gabor, he's a fantastic psychologist, and he talks about his whole theory is about attachment and security, and how that if we don't feel attachment with our caretakers, people who are primary, like mom or dad, or it can be anybody else, but people who primarily take care of us. If our relationship with them is not secure, if we don't feel like it's secure, that's when we start developing things that are not in line with ourselves. That's when we sort of start numbing ourselves, because our survival is so much more important than our survival is so important, and that survival depends on the relationship with that caregiver. So sometimes we need to be made sort of really small, or really like helpful, in order to create that safety, which then you end up breaking away from your true self. You end up sort of suppressing your own real inner voice and start to create these things, sort of like artificially behaving, because you think this is what's going to keep you safe, because that's the attachment, in order to create that attachment.
That makes a lot of sense, because you're probably getting a lot of people just now nodding their heads going, because we see how we do it is unique to the family setup, whereas a lot of times it's just our ability of stay safe. It's like our brain is just trying to keep us alive and to fit in, because it doesn't want to be kicked out the community, because back in the caveman days, you'd have been killed if you weren't in a community. You could buy saber-toothed tigers if you're on your own out in the wilds. And is that why we struggle then to put in like healthy boundaries? And a lot of times we just put up with crap from people. We work ourselves out to kind of fit in, to keep people happy. How do we start establishing no, I need self-care, I need to be healthy? Just that when that person comes to you and says, I'm physically sick because of the amount I'm working, how do you say, okay, we're putting this block in like a dam in just now to let them start getting healthy?
It's about starting to really tap into yourself. That's why sort of meditation and yoga and any grounding activities like walking, or even touching earth and touching, stone, any of the elements, is really good, because it helps us connect to our body. Our mind, as you said rightly, is designed to help us stay alive. survive. So it's like a computer that's always looking at possibilities of things going wrong. So whether they're real or imaginative, it doesn't matter. Our body and our mind reacts to it as if it's real. It's just an example, when you watch horror movies, you physiologically react to it, increased heart rate, sweaty palms, fear, even though you're sitting on your couch at home. But because the brain is designed to keep us alive, it just doesn't know the difference. And also, if you were sitting there going, is this a real tiger or not? It'll be too late. So your body reacts to those images, right? Or is this a real killer or not? No, you just like, no, you react to it. So it's hardwired a survival instinct. So that's why it's important to be aware that your mind is somewhere else and not in the reality, right? Not at your desk, not at your dinner table, not on your couch, or lying, on the grass. And to do that, it's really utilizing your senses.
And is that where that five senses thing comes in? So you would say 5 things you see, 5 things you feel, 5 things you hear, that sort of thing.
Yes,
'Cause I've
100%.
done that.
It's called grounding technique. Yes. So it's bringing attention to the here and now.
Yeah, because that really helps, especially if you're hyperventilating before doing like a speech or something. I found that really helps when you're feeling really panicky. So how then do you start utilizing CBT, hypnotherapy, because a lot of people kind of go, oh, no, I don't like that. But a lot of them believe every thought that comes in their head, where a lot of times it's your brain just saying, well, you've thought about this, so here's some thoughts about that. Or this is how you think about this, so I'm going to make you think about this person in that way. We're not our thoughts. It's a kind of like a program generating based on our bias, our experiences, our histories, etc. How do you start chipping into that? Because if our relationship with ourselves is the most important thing that we should have, we wouldn't let a friend speak to us the way we speak to ourselves a lot of times. How do you start shaping that inner voice to be a friend, not foe?
I think that number one is awareness, that you have an inner voice, that inner voice is not kind towards you, being aware when it happens, and then having simple things that stop that. For example, you might, I don't know, walk down the street and you trip, and your first inner monologue is like, you're so stupid, you always do this, you're so dumb. So first it's like actually realizing that you're having that. Most people don't even realize they do that. It's been there for years. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, people talk badly to themselves. They don't even realize that it's happening in their head. So that's the first step. So next time I do something and I'm like, you're so, oh, hang on, why am I speaking to myself? Oh, that's what I've been doing. That's that bad inner monologue, treating myself really badly. Because people don't even know what it means treating yourself badly. They don't know what it looks like, what it sounds like, because they're not even aware of it. It's a bit like breathing. It happens automatically. So once you become aware, then you go, oh no, what happened? Oh, I just wasn't paying attention and I tripped. Or I didn't, I was looking up, or I was thinking about something, or there's a hole, right? I didn't expect it. I'm like, okay, what can I do next? I could better, not be on my phone, or actually look more at the floor rather than look up in the sky. So just changing those things. It's actually, I just had a session with my client and we changed her narrative, and she was like, that's so simple. I'm like, yeah, it's not rocket science. Small little adjustments make a huge difference. But until we become aware and know what the problem is, that's why the talking therapy is really useful and important, the first part. And then the second part is about creating that change.
So in that first part, are you kind of just letting them feel out their true self, sort of letting the noise dissipate, kind of dealing with finding their true north, so to speak? And then in the second part, you're adding in that imagery, the CBT to kind of to shape their habits and the way their subconscious is working to start moving them towards their goal. Would that be a kind of a good way of looking at it?
It's a really good sort of summary of it. Yes. So first we start with understanding what is the goal or what's the problem. And then through talking, we realize what the problem is. We realize how to fix it. And then there's a goal usually. And that's, for example, let's talk about social anxiety. A lot of people come and they say, "I'm just so nervous. I hate socializing. I love it, but I just also feel so anxious." So we're like, okay, let's be aware. Like, what is going through your mind when you start feeling that? It could be something like, people are going to judge me, nobody likes me, right? We're like, oh yeah, I think, yeah, I get those thoughts. So it's sort of first identifying, being aware of what happens. Then we replace that with like, oh, be kind to yourself. And then we sort of, in CBT, we also go, we fact check, like how factual is that statement? What's the reality of the situation? People are probably really preoccupied with themselves, thinking everybody else is judging them, right? We're all sitting there like frozen because we all think
This
they're
guy.
judging us.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's very common. Then, there's a few different tools that I use with my clients. I teach them about internal focus, external focus, and how you can shift between those. And then, if they were like, I really want to feel confident and be a certain way in a social setting, then we do mental imagery. So I would take them through the process of seeing themselves in that environment, seeing themselves around really confident people, seeing those confident people come up to them, like people that they admire, like, I don't know, Obama, or Dalai Lama, whatever. People that they really find have traits they would like to have. And in that exercise, they will see each of those individuals come to them and put their hand on their shoulder. As they do that, those qualities they take on. And then they see themselves with those qualities walking around, talking to people, or whatever the goal is. So that starts shifting how we see ourselves, and it starts impacting our behavior, because most of our behavior is very reactive. So it's like a reflex, right? And then we want to keep doing this mental imagery until that new way of behaving becomes like a reflex.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
God, I wish I had spoken to you when I was back in the day, because the guy I initially spoke to was just, how does that make you feel? That, we have these beliefs that therapy is just going to go round and round in a circle, and these kind of behavioral actions actually work. And I really like that idea of the visualization, because was it to say that visualized reps are almost as good as reps you would do in the gym? Your body can't, your brain can't always work between the two, so it can see one like the other. So you can actually get mental reps in as much as physical. So how?
100%.
But you said there about the reaction. A lot of guys are like, yeah, but the second I start trying to change, I self-sabotage, I feel fear, I panic, because that's your unconscious kind of going, whoa, 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 we're breaking our programming here, back up. How do you get past that initial fear, or, it's like you're changing your core self?
This is why the mental imagery and hypnotherapy is really good, because you do it in your mind, and because the mind doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination, it takes it on as a reality. So it is as if you were doing that in real life. So that becomes much more, so it creates new neural pathways, right? So let's say this has been the path you've always gone down. Like somebody looks at you and you go down that path of like, oh, they don't like me, they think I'm stupid, whatever. And then you're like, no, we're creating a new neural pathway. And we have those thoughts. We behave like this. When we're in social settings, we think like this, we put the attention out. So you are constantly creating, now you start creating a new path. So when you come to that intersection, somebody looks at you, it's easier to go that way.
I like
Because
that.
it's
I like that.
quicker. Yeah.
So CBT would shape would sort of deals with that inner voice, the way it kind of starts changing the programming, and the hypnotherapy would actually work in conjunction with that to then take you on that new path. So how do you work between the two? What's the kind of the split, or, is there something that people listening could start doing as a little kind of exercise they could do in their own lives? Or do you need to start working with somebody to kind of get into the deeper levels to really make a difference?
I think that visualization is something that can change anybody's life. And it's about tapping into the emotion. So if you see a photo of something that triggers a good emotion, try to hold on to that and close your eyes and see yourself in a difficult situation, but feeling those emotions, and just sit there. So your mind starts associating that difficult situation with a positive feelings. So when you are in that situation, you're more likely to feel positive and less stress or feel threatened. Also, what we are exposed to really makes a huge difference how we feel. So if you're constantly watching, let's say, horror movies or like violent movies or just violent contents, you're programming yourself, you're programming your brain to think like that. But if you're watching inspirational things, happy things, you're programming yourself that way as well. So neuroplasticity is great because the brain changes, but it can change the wrong way as well. So being very conscious of what we consume makes a huge difference.
It's so obvious when you say it out loud, isn't it? It's what you consume, is what you create in your life. And I think a lot of guys tend to be they wouldn't even think about the stuff that we consume on a regular basis. And, we're raised as men to be, you can't cry, you have to be strong, dominant, disciplined, and take everything on your own. And thankfully, we're kind of moving away from that. But now we're getting the whole generation of people been calling it woke and liberal. And you think, why are we raising guys who are strong but getting crushed, who commit suicide at such an alarming rate? It's terrifying that we're thinking that asking for help is a bad thing. And I think that's the worst thing about the myth that guys get. Do you see a lot of myths in that clients come to you? I can't change. I'm too old. I'm not able to do that. Do you see a lot of kind of beliefs about healing from guys that you want to eliminate?
This, I think we all lie to ourselves at some point, right? Sometimes we'll come to therapy because we're like, I'm doing the right thing because I know I have a problem or challenge, so I need to change it. I have, for example, clients who have addiction problems, anything from substance to behavioral, spending money, spending too much time watching TV, gambling, and so forth. And they'll come to me because they want to change, right? They want to stop doing that. But they really never intend to stop doing it. They're just doing something to say to themselves, look, I did what I can.
Yeah.
Right? They never intended to change. So
they can say to their partner they're speaking to somebody, but they're not actually wanting to.
Yeah, they don't want to change. So that's the number one thing about therapy is like, if you want to change, you will. If you don't, you won't. So that's number one. In regards to guys specifically coming to see me and saying like, but there is, I can't change, or I want to be a certain way, but I can't because of, my friends and so forth. I haven't experienced that because I think most of the time those individuals don't seek help.
Oh, so by the
If
time they've
they
come to you, they've actually accepted they need to change. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's what we were talking about earlier is you get to put, it's like the pain point where it has to get painful enough to put, that's why a lot of people stay in jobs till they're fed up, or the relationships till they get dumped. They don't like the relationship, but they don't want to
Mm,
leave it because they're scared, and then eventually they get dumped and they're like completely soul crushed. How
yeah.
do you see like mindfulness, meditation, exercise, breath work? Do you see behavioral traits that you work in conjunction with CBT and hypnotherapy and stuff? Do you introduce these kind of concepts to people to say, let's get these into your habits straight away? Let's drink a glass of water. Let's get you moving. Let's get you, how do you start working physically so you help the spiritual and the emotional side as well?
Yeah. I mean, the mind and the body is closely connected. You can't have one without the other, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes, so a lot of the times we create a blockage. We don't listen to our body. We just sort of just operate from here. But our body tells us a lot. That's why movement is so important. That's sort of movement is meditation. It's grounding, which is helping your mind get into your body because where your body is, that's where the reality is. Your mind can be anywhere right now. So that's why the connection between the body and the mind is so important. And yes, a lot of the times with my clients, I work and give them sort of homework or tasks to do between sessions, which is go for a walk, take photos of this, collect this, different flowers. I want them to get engaged. I want them to also, like example, some clients who might get anxiety, I tell them, okay, do something with your hands, clean something, draw something, just to get back to feel yourself. So once again, the psychosomatics connection between the mind and the body. It's very, as I said before, they're very simple things. It's just knowing what to use and when to use them.
I can see why you're successful because these are great. Like things I've kind of learned by accident. I'm kind of now saying, going, "Whoa, this is why I know that like you bringing out an educational thing for kids would be so helpful because I think we're not taught how to deal with jealousy, comparison. We're battered by social media. You're not good enough,
Mm,
you're not strong enough, you're not pretty enough, whatever it is, male, female. We're always taught we're inferior. We need this latest product to be the better than we are, or there's always something missing. Whereas we need to learn we are perfect the way we are. How then do you know between confidence, self esteem, to actually what's fake and what's real? How do you know you're operating from your true self or your authentic
mm.
self if you've never really felt it for so long?
Yeah, I mean, those are really, really good questions. So some people have never felt confidence. Some people have never felt love, and it's when I do the exercises. For me, it's very important, and for an emotion to be triggered, the right emotion, in order for the individual to start visualizing and connect specific things with that emotion. Um, Sometimes, I mean, simple things like I said, visuals, watching a movie, listening to music can trigger. It triggers emotions, right? So we try to anchor that into the sessions. Oh my god, I lost my. Sorry, what was the other part of the question?
It's sort of like just how to deal with like comparison, how to deal with
What's
jealousy,
the
because mm,
right? So we there's a positive and negative side to comparing yourself to others. If you look at somebody and you're like, wow, I love how confident they are. I love how fit they are. I love how, popular they are. That's positive because you're like, oh, I want to be like that. It's inspirational. That's why we have, you know, famous people and leaders because it helps us see a way of being that we haven't, experienced before. But when you start comparing yourself in a sense of like, oh, they're more popular than me or they're more successful than me, that means, right, that we're going back to the inner monologue.
Yeah.
What are you saying? Therefore, you're what? So becoming really aware of your inner monologue, what you're saying to yourself, and narratives make a huge difference. How things impact us and our emotions, our confidence, also whether our validation is external or internal. For example, external validation is like, well, I live in this area, I have this car, I go out to these places, therefore I am this type of person, right? But all of these things can be taken away. You can lose finances, you can lose the circle of friends, you can, end up living somewhere else completely. But if you're confident, and this is what goes back to my interest when I started, be curious about people being exposed to the same, let's say, challenges and completely ending up in different ways, right? It's about going like, hang on, all these things that can be taken away from me, they're external validation. This is saying to others, this is my status, this is who I am. But people can take that away. Anything
Yeah.
that's internal, that's the real confidence. Anything that people can't take that away, right? We choose how we behave, how we react. My values are this. I speak with honesty and dignity. I am I don't know, a person who likes to support others. I like to, make people happy. I like to improve other people's lives. I'm just, I'm the cool, calm, quiet person. This is who I am, right? This is sort of like internal things. So that's what is going to make the difference. Because a person that has really solid confidence, when things around them fall apart, they're still the same person.
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. It's like, fakeness is the things you have. The confidence is what makes you sort of you. But what if you're the villain of the story? What if you've done something bad? And I interviewed a guy we called the Nordic paddler, and that's what he was saying is that people were, once you're a prisoner, you're a number, you're society, right? Even though it might not be true. And he was saying that sometimes just doing a CV for somebody would be life changing to them. That it was the nicest thing somebody had ever done for them was actually taking some time and treating them like a person, not a convict. Almost if you are if you have done something bad and never been caught, if you've been you've upset a partner or like legal to badly behaved socially or whatever it is, how do we come to terms with our past for a better future? Because a lot of guys are struggling just now with, I might have done this, I might have done that. I had a fight when I was younger, and I feel bad that I was like that. I was a drinker. I upset my parents. Whatever it is. I never came to terms with my parents before they died. How do we deal with that kind of grief that we carry around, especially when we can't be open and vulnerable about it and discuss it?
I think number one is forgiveness, forgiving ourselves for not knowing better. Right? That's all we knew at that moment. Even if we knew at the moment it was bad. Sorry?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I have guys who write to me to tell me, but can't tell a friend, and
Yeah.
I find that heartbreaking in a way.
Yeah, it is. It is very. We get isolated. We put labels on people really quickly. I'm all against labels because it puts you into like a hole. Like that's your identity. That's your world. And it's like we are humans. We're so multidimensional. We wear so many hats, right? And number one is forgiveness. Number two, knowing that every second is a new opportunity to do the right thing. You can do the right thing the next second. So nothing is set in stone. Whatever we've done, we've done. You can always be a different person tomorrow or work towards it. Nothing is set in stone. You're not defined by something bad you've done. Well, it's sort of like if you continuously do the same thing and you become aware that this is not good, you can change.
Yeah.
Like
in a way, you could. I was saying to somebody, you could actually use it as a way of giving back. Like by taking the badness of it, and how can you flip it into the good to help other people? But I didn't know, was that good advice to give to people, or?
I mean, if you have learned from your experiences and you don't want other people to make the same mistakes, that's fantastic. You can teach people, young men, how important it is to talk, how important friendship is, how, men usually making fun of each other just shows that them hiding their true feelings. It's a way to deflect how they feel. And, it just shows that if they had insight of themselves, they would never make fun of others for being vulnerable or for being open. So yeah, and sort of learning that other people's actions are a reflection of them, not you. Because I said, like, every second we choose what we're going to do, how we're going to say. We can't choose what emotions we feel, but our actions we can.
So how because we're very sort of social animals, we need to be part of a community, a group, etc. How then do we start connecting to people in a deeper level rather than this shallow kind of, oh, you've got jeans from such and such, oh, you silly, I've got a much better brand, or whatever. How can guys connect in a not the superficial level that you see a lot of guys doing currently? How do we build deep friendships?
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more challenging to do that because of social media, because we are not, interacting such a way. We're socializing through our phone while we are at home alone or at a cafe by ourselves. So you have to be really proactive. You have to go and join clubs. You have to find your passion, challenge yourself. Through challenging ourselves, we grow. And it's the growth mindset that we want to achieve and be like, yeah, join the running club, join the, I don't know, poetry club, join where other people are going to come, where you can connect. And that's how we create connections. And that's, having something that we have in common, a passion, a hobby, helps us connect. It's just got to be proactive about it.
I like that. Because it's you usually have to take the first step, but it's like Steve Cam said, it's that berserker 20-second of confidence. Just have that rage of confidence to sign up, and it can be life changing. But a lot of people are terrified, and it's that just overcome that little initial fear, and it can change your entire life. So if we had to sum this up, because I know we're tight for time, but I mean, I think we're just getting into it. I'd love to have you back on and kind of go into the deeper areas. I'm trying not to go down rabbit holes and personal issues and stuff. But
No, it's natural.
I mean,
Sorry.
what would you say to somebody to kind of say to them, like, this is what I want you to do. If I had you to come back in a month and listen to this again, this is how I'd like you to do. Have you got like a kind of an exercise anybody listening could do, is to, apart from signing up to work with yourself, how would you get them to come back and say, that's your homework, you did an amazing job? Is it start setting boundaries? Is it confronting the boss? Is it taking one step a day just to kind of tap into your values, write them out and then start trying to live more by them? How do we kind of start incorporating CBT, hypnotherapy, working with a therapist into our lives? How do we pick a good therapist? How do we Like how do we take this forward as a useful tool?
So I think it depends on the individual, where they're at, what their challenges are, what they want to achieve. It's difficult to have like an overarching sort of advice or exercise to do. I think if you feel stuck, no, you're not learning. A lot of the time, you feel stuck because we have no fuel, like our fuel is empty. Through learning, we get much more life and more energy. So learn something new, do something. Um, that's fine, for example, for people who have the energy to get out of bed and go to work and so forth. But the people who are like really struggling to get out of bed, do one task at a time. Put 3 things for yourself to achieve today. Only 3. But that's brush your teeth, make your bed, walk out of the house. Those are like, just start there. 3 things a day, every time a further step.
There was an admiral that said that, make your bed, because at least if that's your only goal, you've achieved it. Whatever you do in the rest of the day is a success.
Exactly. But even just brushing your teeth, some individuals struggle with that because they don't have the drive, they don't have the energy, because they have all these things in their mind that they think they need to do. But if they break it down to small things, that feels much more achievable. Then it doesn't feel overwhelming.
And how do you think you've changed as a person? Because you were mentioning there about being a refugee when you were younger, but you're now helping CEOs, actors, you're changing lives on the street, you're dealing with people at such deep, deep levels. If you had to look back now, do you see yourself then? How do you think your own growth has happened? Do you think you've become a better therapist now because you've been on that journey? But how do you kind of make peace with your own journey to keep helping clients?
I mean, I think my work, I feel very honored and privileged to be able to have discussions with people and look inside their world. And when we have that opportunity to look into somebody's world, we realize a lot of the things that we're not the only ones. We're not the only ones who go through these things, through these challenges. We also are like seeing people change. For me, when I'm struggling, I just sort of go, okay, well, that's today. Tomorrow's a new day. Before, it would have been like, I must achieve this and this. And I would be so hard on myself, and it would just block me even more from achieving what I wanted to achieve. I have become very aware. And just because you're aware doesn't mean things have changed, right? There's a difference between becoming aware and then being able to change, to make the change. And even as a therapist, there's a lot of things that I would like to change, right? So it's a continuous journey. I don't see anymore that I must achieve this goal, because continuously, hopefully, I would want to grow and change. So that's the difference. I don't have timelines put on me anymore. And I think that's a society thing as well. You gotta finish university at a certain point. You gotta have this much experience. You gotta, I don't know, be in a certain relationship status by this age and so forth. Like, these are all external goals, and I have learned that it all starts within, and it's a continuous journey. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, right?
And that's actually sometimes the best part of it. You're no longer focused or controlling everything. And do you think that's how somebody listening knows they're on the right path? That they just shed off this extra noise and weight. They don't really notice it. They just feel more content in themselves. Is that a good indicator of you're on the right path, you're progressing. You don't need to measure data. You just feel happier and healthier.
I love that. I love that you said you feel more content. You didn't go, you feel more happy, because happiness is fleeting.
Yeah.
What I focus on, and I try to get my clients to focus on, is the internal calmness, the peace. Because then you can really live to the fullest, because you can be you. But when we don't have peace, we're usually running away from something. And yes, we might be happy here and there, but happiness is not a goal. Happiness is sort of like fear. At the same level, it burns energy. You can't be always happy. It's sort of the same level of intensity, right? So being calm, I would say, should be, it's a great goal to have in life.
I love
And
that.
yeah, I agree with you. That's when you're sort of probably on the right path.
So I love how simple you can make it, but it's so like gets to the vein of the problem. Oh, I wish I'd had you as a therapist when I was younger, because you make it so easy. Are you taking clients on currently?
Yes, I am. I am doing that. I am obviously taking time off during the Christmas and New Year's. But yeah, I do have some openings, and I am working on some other projects, more group things, to help sort of share this and spread a word on a larger scale. So that's something that's in the works as well.
I would love to see some information products, some TED Talks. I think I would love to have you back on, because I think we're just sort of touching the surface on a lot of this stuff. And there's so many rabbit holes I'm trying to avoid going down. But what would you want people to take from this? You know, it's a kind of a summary or just a thing to remember from this. What would you want them to take from it?
Just take one step at a time. Like every day, just one step at a time. Don't rush, don't run. As long as you're moving forward, that's all that matters. And yeah, be really aware of your inner monologue, which is how you're treating yourself. I mean, that's more than one, but the other one, I would say, be really aware of what you're consuming visually, and also sound-wise, audio.
And how can people keep in touch? You know, how can we, just follow along this amazing journey? How can we get in touch? How can we sign up to interest in working with you? How can we find your websites, your social media, etc.?
Yeah, so you can reach me on my website. I have a website that's it's mentalimagerytherapy.com. So you can get in, send me an email, and we can go from there.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.